Dearest gentle reader, how are you? On today's episode, we'll be talking about Adanna. It's a book written by Adesuwa Oman Nwokedi. Trigger warning: this book discusses themes of rape, incest, sexual violence, domestic violence, arson, and of course, murder. But if you know that any of these topics trigger you, please don't bother reading it. Have you ever read a book so tragic you shut it just to pause and wonder what kind of mind created it? That's exactly what happened to me when I was reading this book. I kept reading. I would close it. Oh my God. At first, the first chapter, it sounded like, okay, interesting, but it was okay. We kept going. We kept going, you know? And then from there, it just went from point zero to like 100. It went from 0 to 100 in a matter of minutes, as far as I'm concerned. The book is tragic. It is traumatic. So please, if you know, like I said, if you know that any of those triggers are not good for you, just stay away from it. Now, this book was published in 2005. Books like these aren't born from mere imagination, Mululuwa Mustafa. That's how she summarized the book. And I agree, because I kept wondering what was going through the writer's mind. Whose story is she telling? Is this story just from mere imagination? I don't know, between this book and The Fisherman, I don't know which is more traumatic for me, honestly. Now let's run through a quick summary of it. Adanna is 16 years old. She's a beautiful girl. Everybody that sees her can't help but stare. She is that beautiful, show-stopping, mouth agape, just, she's that kind of beauty. So she's 16 years old when her world comes crashing. Her father is dead. His debtors are on his mother's neck, and her sister needs a kidney transplant. Her dad slumps and dies after his biggest customer suddenly cancels on him, leaving him in huge debt. As a means of survival and to ensure her sister's expensive kidney transplant bill is footed, she agrees to be married off to a man 3 times her age. Chief will take care of her family as long as she becomes his wife. Her education, of course, comes to an abrupt end. Before her dad dies, she meets Chief's second son, Anayo. Sparks fly between them, but he has to leave for the United Kingdom to study and writes through his elder brother due to the suddenness of the trip and promises to keep in touch. But does his elder brother deliver these letters? No, he doesn't. I think he delivered just one, and after that one, he stopped just 4. I don't know. Apparently, the guy he's a psycho, so he just stopped delivering the letters. She marries into wealth. Her mom and sister are taken care of, but she lives her worst nightmare, day after day, night after night. At first, Chief refuses to consummate the marriage because, as we find out much later, she isn't his spec. Apparently, he likes masculine women, tall, broad, and almost have male features. But Adanna is soft. She is beautiful. So, it made me question. So, why marry her in the first place? Why not marry her for one of your sons, since you're that capable? Why marry her? His first son, Akanna, rapes his dad's wife. Even before Chief has the chance to consummate the marriage, Akanna rapes her. And Chief blames his 16-year-old child bride for it. Out of anger, he finally consummates the marriage. But there's no love there. Basically, he treats her like an animal. No, he doesn't treat her any better than his son treats her. Adanna goes through all 7 hells in the marriage. She finds out that her confidant and mother figure in the house is a betrayer and a schemer who also wants to become Chief's wife. It's just one tragedy after another. She falls for the gardener, and her husband kills him, his mother and siblings, just to prove a point. The poor girl went through a lot, but she survived. Eventually, Chief dies and she gains her freedom. And she is convinced to go through the mourning period just to, pay him his last respect and keep up appearances. She marries again, this time for love. And even that love went through the fire before, they could survive. Literally went through fire, yes, before they could survive. But I honestly do not know that the ending is worth the horror she survived. Before she married for love, there was one last showdown between her and Adanna, who tried to kill her alongside himself while burning the house down. In his defense, in quotes, his father promised him the house, but in his will, he bequeathed the house to Adanna with a huge sum of money. Funny enough, in his death, he took care of her. But when he was alive, he treated her like trash. Like even a property is better treated than Adanna was treated, or than Adanna is treated in that marriage. This is not a feel-good story. It's a confrontation with uncomfortable realities many people prefer to ignore. Now let's go into the themes. The first one, trauma as a cycle. Adanna's pain is not an isolated event. No, the story shows how one traumatic experience, that is the death of her father, quietly sets the stage for the next. It affects her choices, her tolerance, even what she thinks she deserves. People don't just move on, they often move within their trauma. Silence as a survival strategy. Now, like Hambili in Purple Hibiscus, Adanna employs silence here as well. It's easy to ask why she didn't speak up, why she didn't even leave. Why couldn't she have upped and left? Really? But when you read the book, you find out why she just couldn't leave. But the novel shows silence as protection against shame, judgment, and even danger. In her world, speaking out can cost more than staying quiet, especially with the constant threats to put an end to her sister's treatment or the threat to her family's life. Love versus possession. Are they the same? You tell me. Some relationships in the book are labeled as love. But if you look closely, they are about control, dependency, or validation. If it hurts or traps you, is it still love or just ownership with a soft name? Internalized blame. Adanna doesn't just suffer, she often blames herself for what happens to her. This reflects a bigger issue. Society doesn't always need to shame women directly, it trains them to do it themselves. The performance of OK. On the outside, things can look normal, even fine. Inside, a completely different story. The book highlights how people become actors in their own lives, performing strength while quietly falling apart. You ask someone, how are you? I'm okay. How are you? I'm fine. But if you dig deeper, you see that that person is not okay. The person is far from okay. Sexuality as both agency and vulnerability. Adanna's experience shows a complicated truth. Sex can feel like control, but also be a space where control is lost. The line between empowerment and exploitation is thinner than people admit. Society protects its image and not its victims. There's a quiet critique of how communities respond to wrongdoing. Reputation is prioritized, victims are questioned, truth is inconvenient. The real villain sometimes isn't a person, it's a system that refuses to see. Take, for instance, our Nigerian system. And then sometimes you might not even blame society, because who is society? It's you and I. You and I are the society. And then, especially when it has to do with someone that is powerful, knowing that they have everything at their fingertips to make your life miserable. Sometimes you just, for the sake of peace, in quotes, even though that is not necessarily peace, let's just call it for the sake of what? Peace. Okay, peace. In quote, everybody looks the other way, and wrong keeps getting wronger, if you know what I mean. Healing is messy and incomplete. No clean ending. No magical recovery. No, the book resists the idea that growth is linear or pretty. Progress can look like small, shaky steps and not dramatic transformation. Not happily ever after. No, you have to work towards the happily ever after. Small steps, baby steps. You wake up today, okay, you choose differently today, okay, how did that choice turn out? Even if you don't see it now, in 5 years' time, what do you think will happen based on the choice I made today? Identity beyond what happened to you. At her core, Adanna is trying to answer one question: who am I outside of my pain? And that, dearest gentle reader, is the real journey. Not escaping the past, but refusing to be defined by it. I think at some level, everybody carries some sort of pain. It might not be as severe as Adanna. How do you describe yourself? Who are you outside that trauma? Who are you outside that pain? Who are you outside those circumstances that made you do what you would not ordinarily have done? If you do not deal with your trauma, it starts making decisions for you. Let's just go through chapter 1, just a few lines from chapter 1. The body. Sometimes I sleepwalk. Now, okay, before we go into that, she started sleepwalking as a means to deal with her trauma. Not to deal, to cope with it. She wasn't a sleepwalker, and then when she changed the environment, the sleepwalking stopped. But the moment she was back to that house, she continued. So it was her way of dealing with that trauma. She couldn't speak. I mean, who could she even tell? Is it her mother that was trying to survive? Who could she have spoken to? Sometimes I sleepwalk, sometimes I dream emotion and end up gliding around my house at night, usually with no memory afterwards. From the different bedrooms to the living rooms, the kitchen, and even the servants' quarters, I have been sighted in various parts of my house at odd hours of the night. Sometimes, when the person who finds me is kind-hearted, I am led back to my bedroom, and I am none the wiser about it when I wake up the following morning. But if I am left unhindered, I usually awake in the same place, in my garden, sleeping on a bed of flowers. It's as if even in my subconsciousness, I crave the peace and tranquility I get from my safest haven in this prison that is my home. As the sun rays hit my face, I realize it has happened again, and my nocturnal stroll has led me back to my garden. The familiar fragrances envelope me, and I open my eyes to behold the symphony of colors in the 300 square feet of land I converted from dry grassland. Ruby reds, blush pinks, neon oranges, canary yellows, jewel greens, and snow whites are only a few of the hues of my prized collection of roses, tulips, lilies, orchids, daffodils, dahlias, daisies, marigolds, and chrysanthemums. I have cultivated over the years. It truly never gets old. It is all my sweat and blood. So if my spirit chooses this to be the first place I start most mornings, then so be it. I close my eyes to savor my small piece of paradise, to forget all my worries and pretend that life is quite literally the bed of roses on which I lie. But just as I'm about to drift off to sleep again, my ears pick up noises uncharacteristic of this time of morning. I sit up and realize I am not imagining things. There really is screaming and wailing coming from the house. I rise to my feet and start walking briskly towards it, not even conscious of my flimsy nightwear. My panic escalates as I notice the security guards, Abel and Ukwike, rushing into the house, just as Noma, one of the junior maids, rushes out, her face pale. Onwugo, she is muttering under her breath, her hand clamped so tight around the doorpost, I fear all her veins will burst through it. Onyenwu, I demand. Who died? She just stares back at me with flat eyes, and I move past her into the house. The persistent screaming is from Apamau. I shove past, more confused. I shove domestic staff in my desperation to get to the root of this bewildering matter. This has got to be some sort of tasteless joke. Apart from the story that is traumatic, the Igbo, I don't know. I feel like the Igbo here, or maybe it's a dialect that I'm not used to. Yes, I could understand some of it, but some I had to read and read again. Will you be reading Adanna? Don't forget the trigger warnings I talked about in the beginning. Adanna's dream Adanna dreams of reaching the stars. Her heart set on working at NASA, but her dreams grind to dust the day her father dies, leaving her vulnerable to a fate she cannot escape. Married off to Chief Arinze, a man old enough to be her father, she enters a life that quickly becomes a nightmare. What she endures over the next two decades defies imagination. The walls of her husband's home hold unspeakable horrors, the kind of pain that words cannot fully capture. She is silenced, stripped of her identity, and forced to bury her dreams under the weight of survival. Then one day, Chief Nsofo is found murdered. The news shocks the community and the finger pointing begins. Who killed Chief? Could it be his children, angered by years of neglect? An enemy seeking vengeance for his misdeeds? Or could it be Adanna, the wife who has endured unimaginable cruelty? But as secrets unravel, so does the story of a woman determined to survive no matter the cost. In this riveting story of resilience, Adanna's life unfolds, a haunting reminder of the strength it takes to survive, the cost of freedom, and the courage it takes to dream again. Dearest gentle reader, don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.